this is all wicked crazy, and it's wicked abusive. Look, Congress has an appropriate oversight role, but you have to have a legitimate legislative purpose. And I think it's clear to most Americans that some of my friends in the House leadership have decided just to be abusive. They've asked the administration for everything but the kitchen sink at the White House, and then they ask for that. And then when the White House doesn't produce it, or Bill Barr doesn't produce it, all of a sudden they resort to this apocalypticism where, it's the end of Western order and we got a constitutional crisis. And nobody believes that. I mean, the fact of the matter is, and I wish I didn't have to say this, Bill, there's some members of the House leadership whose only mission in life is to demonize the president. And we're going into the third year that they've been throwing a tantrum over the election result. They need to leave the man alone, let him be president. They can vote against him in a year and a half. They can campaign against him.
That's what elections are all about. Listen, Senator, no.
Okay, let's bring in Fox News contributor and former independent counsel, Ken Starr. Ken, it's great to see you, sir.
Hey, Liz, good to see you. Thank you.
What was your reaction when you heard President Trump saying that Robert Mueller, quote, made a fool out of himself? What was your reaction?
Well, I understand the president's frustration, his anger. So many questions are being raised now about the accuracy, the integrity of the report. And so I think it's a strong statement, but it's understandable. The president is, I think, quite angry about this whole thing. I wish he would just leave it alone and let others speak for him. But the president is the president.
House Democrats may subpoena Robert Mueller in the next 2 weeks. That's according to Politico. Do you think Robert Mueller should testify publicly?
Yes, I do.
Why?
And one of the reasons, Liz, is because of these unanswered questions. This is an issue of power that he's exercised and now of accountability. There are a lot of why questions. Why did the report apparently distort the statement of a very important person, John Dowd, the president's first criminal defense lawyer, and is a very outstanding lawyer of total integrity. But the report makes it look a little shady. So I use that just as an example, but there are others. John Solomon's reporting. So there are a number of, shall I say, straws in the wind that suggest we need to take a careful look at this. And I'm pleased that there's a sense on both sides of the aisle. I know the president would like this to just go away, but I think there's a sense on both sides of the aisle that we need to hear from Bob Mueller.
President Trump said, quote, they've been going after me since before I got elected. Your reaction to that?
Yeah, it's very true. I mean, about business dealings and so forth. Now, he inserted himself into the political arena, so everything is sort of fair game. But I, again, understand his frustration in light of the comprehensiveness of the Mueller investigation. And here's something we're almost forgetting, the cooperation of the Trump administration itself with that investigation. So I'm sure from the president's perspective, let's end this. It should be over with. But I'm afraid it's just not going to happen. There are just too many, as I say, outstanding questions that need to be answered about the Mueller report and the integrity of the report.
Sir, switching gears, what do you think of Democrats moving to hold William Barr and Don McGahn in contempt?
Understandable. Congress has its powers, but I wish they wouldn't be pursuing that avenue. I think that Bill Barr has been trying to do an honorable job. And now let me speak to Don McGahn. Don McGahn testified before Bob Mueller's interviewers for 30 hours. That's, to me, incomprehensible. How that was allowed to happen, I don't know. But he's been there, done that. He has provided this extraordinary level of cooperation. So I can understand the president saying, this was the White House counsel. I invoke executive privilege, attorney-client privilege, and so forth. And so that's the end of the McGahn cooperation. So I wish the Democrats would simply accept that and move on, so to speak, assess the Mueller report. They don't need to retry the case. The case has been tried.
Did you ever interview anybody for 30 hours or more during your investigation of Bill Clinton?
I'd have to go back and look at the timesheets. Okay. We would spend time with witnesses, but not with the counsel to the president. That's what's so extraordinary.
We've got John Dean of the Nixon era testifying next week. Your take on that?
Well, John Dean has become, I think, just, what shall I say, unreasonably and harshly critical of the president, and he is, of course, a convicted felon.
All right. By the way, it was Mayor Bill de Blasio who said, hey, Nancy Pelosi, focus on jobs first. Democrat Party, right. Focus on jobs first. Quickly, your take on Bill de Blasio here.
Yeah, it's smart advice. And I think the American people would likely say, yeah, what is all this nonsense really about impeachment? It's only, I think, just the most hardcore opponents of the president who want to see the country go down an alley which is so divisive and unhelpful to the country, doesn't move the country forward.
I think she's a disgrace. I actually don't think she's a talented person. I've tried to be nice to her because I would have liked to have gotten some deals done. She's incapable of doing deals. She's a nasty, vindictive, horrible person. The Mueller report came out. It was a disaster for them. They thought their good friend Bobby Mueller was going to give them a great report, and he came out with a report with 13 horrible, angry Democrats who were totally biased against me.
Well, President Trump there blasting House Speaker Nancy Pelosi after Politico reported that she told Democrats in a meeting pushing for impeachment that she would rather see the president, quote, in prison. Let's bring in Congressman Debbie Dingell, co-chair of the House Democratic Policy and Communications Committee and a member of the House Energy and Commerce Committee. Congresswoman, good morning to you. You know, when Nancy Pelosi was asked about those comments that she reportedly make about wanting to see the president in prison, she really didn't shoot down that report. So by a non-answer, it would appear she's standing by what she said about the president.
You know, I didn't hear her say them, so I'm going to say that first and foremost. Secondly, everybody's trying to pit everybody against each other. Mm-hmm. The fact of the matter is, I agree she's got the full support of the caucus. I agree with where she is on the subject of impeachment. We've got to continue the investigations. No one's above the law. I am not for a partisan impeachment. I've said that many times. And I think we need to focus on the issues. There are a lot of things that we have to get done. And instead of everybody trying to pit us against each other, we need to be focused on doing something about the cost of health care, both prescription drugs and out-of-pocket expenses, an infrastructure bill, and the administration needs to not say they're not going to work or do anything from now until next November.
You know, in that interview, when you heard the president referencing her as a nasty, vindictive, horrible person, he said, I've tried to work with her. He said he did try to reach across the aisle and work with Nancy Pelosi, but that just never got anywhere. I mean, what about that? What about the ability of Nancy Pelosi leading her party and being able to and being willing to work with the president?
You know, I'm going to tell you, they both got to work with each other. That's what leaders do. And the American people expect us to. He's a leader. He is president of the White House. If you go back and you look at these kind of turbulent times that we saw with Richard Nixon and we saw with President Clinton, significant bills got passed. And those who managed to work together on a number of other issues, they can work together again. And it's the president that walked out of the meeting on infrastructure, which is something that everybody across America. In Michigan, our favorite saying is, fix the blank roads. I can't say it on national television. People want to see things get done. And if he wants to even have a chance of getting reelected next year, which I've said to people, he can be reelected, he's got to get some things done, and he's got to deliver to the people that voted for him the things that he promised.
I heard you in our first response say that you believe that Nancy Pelosi has the full support of her caucus. Rush Limbaugh, obviously conservative radio host, went on the record saying that he believed that Nancy's words recently about the president mean she thinks she's in trouble. Here's Rush Limbaugh.
We've got the Speaker of the House of Representatives openly saying she wants to put Donald Trump in jail. And for what? What's the crime? What has Trump done that would warrant being sent to jail? Now, we all know what Pelosi is doing. She's trying to keep her impeachment mob at bay. and she's having trouble.
Is she having trouble, Congresswoman?
I don't think she's having trouble at all. I'm in those caucus meetings. You know, everybody in the press loved to speculate she wasn't going to get elected speaker. She didn't have the votes. She's done a good job. And quite frankly, I'm traveling the country. I've been to places. People respect and admire Speaker Pelosi. And she is trying to keep people together. And quite frankly, she could take an easy route of calling for impeachment, but that's not the right thing to do for this country. And I see in this speaker somebody who's trying to balance everything. But I want to see the president work with the speaker. I want to see us get something done on health care, on infrastructure. We've got real things that need to get done.
Running out of time here, but quickly on tariffs on Mexico. Monday, that is set to begin to stem the flow of migration over our southern border. This is the president's plan. Do you support that?
No, I do not. I've been one of the most likely Democrats to support this president and what I call NAFTA 2.0. NAFTA 1.0 definitively hurt my state and my auto industry. I am a car girl and I'm proud of it. But what he's doing on these tariffs is increasing. A 5% tariff increases the cost of a vehicle by $250. Cars that are being imported from Mexico, which I don't want to see being built there, by the way, but are going to have an increased cost by $1,000. This could cost anywhere from 90,000 to 300,000 jobs.
Got it. Good to get your voice in there. We'll see what happens. Mexico talking with the Trump administration, and we'll see what happens by Monday. Congresswoman, really appreciate you coming on America's Newsroom. Thank you.